When nostalgia collides with championship necessity, can a franchise built on calculated brilliance resist the emotional pull of bringing home a fading legend? Or would doing so be the biggest mistake of their twilight years? Oakland faithful, brace yourselves. The whispers echoing through Chase Center have grown from murmurs to roars. The speculation has transformed into legitimate possibility, and the unthinkable has become genuinely plausible. Klay Thompson, the sharpshooter who helped define an era of Warriors' dominance, could be coming home. But here's the billion-dollar question that should have every Bay Area basketball fan simultaneously excited and terrified. Would bringing back a 35-year-old guard averaging career-low numbers be a masterstroke of championship desperation, or a sentimental mistake that could derail Golden State's postseason aspirations entirely? The drama unfolding in Dallas has created an opportunity that seemed impossible just months ago, with the Mavericks organization in complete upheaval following the shocking dismissal of general manager Nico Harrison. The franchise finds itself rudderless, directionless, and vulnerable. Players once considered untouchable are suddenly very much available, and Thompson's name sits prominently at the top of that list. His $50 million contract, once viewed as a reasonable investment for a proven champion, now looks like a financial albatross around Dallas's neck as they navigate organizational chaos and disappointing on-court results. The question isn't whether Thompson could return to Golden State. The question is whether he should. Let's cut through the nostalgia and examine the cold, hard, unforgiving facts. Thompson's performance in Dallas has been, to put it charitably, inconsistent. To put it honestly, alarming. Averaging just 11.1 points per game while shooting a pedestrian 37.4% from the field and 35.4% from beyond the arc across 21 games, these statistics represent career lows for a player who once terrorized opposing defenses with ruthless efficiency. For a shooter of Thompson's pedigree, a career 41% three-point marksman who once scored 60 points in 29 minutes, who dropped 37 in a single quarter, who defined what it meant to be an elite catch-and-shoot weapon. These numbers aren't just disappointing, they're catastrophic. But here's where the narrative gets complicated, where the analytical mind must wrestle with the emotional heart of basketball fandom. Thompson hasn't been uniformly terrible in Dallas. He's been wildly erratic, a Jekyll and Hyde performance that sees him draining 7 three-pointers one night and bricking open looks the next. Some games, he looks like the Klay of old, moving without the ball with that distinctive fluidity, rising up with textbook form, and watching the net ripple with satisfying consistency. Other nights, he appears lost, his legs heavy, his release just a fraction slower, his defensive rotations a step behind. This inconsistency raises a fascinating question that could determine the entire trajectory of this potential move. Is Thompson genuinely declining, his skills eroding under the relentless assault of age and injury? Or is he simply struggling to find his rhythm in an unfamiliar system, playing alongside new teammates in a different role than he occupied for over a decade in Golden State? The answer to that question is worth millions of dollars and potentially a championship. Meanwhile, back in the Bay, the Warriors have been conducting their own experiment in frustration at the shooting guard position. Golden State has cycled through options like a chef testing recipes, and none have satisfied the championship palate. Brandon Podziemski showed flashes of potential, but lacks the consistent outside shooting threat that opens up the Warriors' motion offense. Rookie Will Richard brings energy and defensive tenacity, but remains too raw offensively to command respect from opposing defenses. The recent signing of Seth Curry, yes, the younger brother of Stephen, provided an immediate spark in his debut against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The 35-year-old veteran dropped 14 points on an eye-popping 85.7% field goal shooting and 66.7% from three-point range. It was exactly the kind of efficient, low-usage scoring punch the Warriors desperately needed. But let's be realistic. Seth Curry, while valuable, isn't the answer to Golden State's championship aspirations. He's a role player, a complementary piece, not the kind of proven playoff performer who can shoulder significant responsibility when the postseason pressure intensifies and the margin for error vanishes completely. This is where Thompson's potential return becomes genuinely intriguing, where the possibility transforms from sentimental fantasy into legitimate strategic consideration. Despite his statistical struggles in Dallas, Thompson remains one of the most accomplished playoff performers of his generation. He's been there, done that, and has 4 championship rings to prove it. He understands the Warriors' system intimately, knows how to play alongside Steph Curry better than anyone not named Draymond Green, and possesses the kind of big-game mentality that cannot be taught, replicated, or manufactured through analytics. Here's something that doesn't show up in box scores or advanced metrics: basketball chemistry. The Warriors' dynasty wasn't built solely on talent. It was constructed on an almost telepathic understanding between players who spent years mastering Steve Kerr's system together. Thompson and Stephen Curry developed one of the most devastating backcourt partnerships in NBA history. A connection forged through thousands of practices, hundreds of games, and countless championship moments. The Splash Brothers weren't just teammates, they were basketball soulmates who understood each other's tendencies, timing, and preferences at an instinctual level. Could that connection be rekindled? Would Thompson's return provide an immediate boost simply because he knows where Curry likes to receive the ball, understands the timing of the Warriors' off-ball screens, and can execute the team's defensive rotations in his sleep? Blue Man Hoops Nick San Miguel certainly thinks so, arguing that bringing back Thompson would also be incredibly nostalgic and would be fitting in a way as the Warriors tried to make the most of the end of Curry's career. That last phrase, the end of Curry's career, should resonate deeply with Warriors fans and front office executives alike. Stephen Curry isn't getting younger. At 36 years old, he's still performing at an elite level, still capable of taking over games, still the gravitational force that makes Golden State's offense function. But championship windows don't stay open forever, and every decision must be evaluated through this unforgiving lens. Does this move give us a better chance to win a championship while Curry is still in his prime? The Dallas disaster. Organizational chaos creates opportunity. Dallas's situation has deteriorated rapidly, creating the kind of organizational instability that makes player movement inevitable. The firing of Nico Harrison sent shockwaves through the organization, creating uncertainty about the franchise's direction and future decision-making. When organizations experience this kind of leadership turmoil, expensive veterans on underperforming teams suddenly become trade candidates as new decision-makers look to put their stamp on the roster. Thompson's contract, which seemed reasonable when Dallas signed him, now looks problematic. He's owed significant money over the next 2 seasons, and his performance hasn't justified that investment. For a Mavericks team trying to build around Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, Thompson's declining production and hefty salary represent a resource allocation problem that demands resolution. Moving him would free up financial flexibility and potentially bring back assets that better fit Dallas's timeline and needs. For Golden State, acquiring Thompson wouldn't be about his current statistical production. It would be a calculated gamble that returning to familiar surroundings, playing in a system he knows intimately, and competing alongside his longtime backcourt partner could unlock a higher level of performance. It's the kind of move that could look brilliant or disastrous with very little middle ground. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of a potential Thompson reunion involves reimagining his role entirely. During his first Warriors tenure, Thompson was a starter, a foundational piece, one of the Splash Brothers who defined the franchise's identity. But that was then. This is now. If Thompson returns to Golden State, the smartest deployment might be as a high-level second-unit contributor, a role that would reduce his minutes, limit his defensive responsibilities against elite opposing guards, and allow him to focus primarily on what he does best, shooting three-pointers. Coming off the bench, Thompson could provide instant offense, mentor younger players, and save his legs for the playoff grind when his championship experience would become most valuable. This approach would require Thompson to check his ego at the door, to accept that his role has evolved, that he's no longer the player who once scored 37 points in a quarter or dropped 60 in 3 quarters. But if Thompson is genuinely committed to winning another championship, this sacrifice might be exactly what both he and the Warriors need. The Warriors' bench has been inconsistent all season, lacking the kind of reliable scoring punch that championship teams require. Thompson, even in his current diminished form, could provide that spark, particularly in a reduced role where expectations are calibrated appropriately and his shooting efficiency might improve with better shot selection and less defensive burden. Let's not sugarcoat the potential downsides, because they're substantial and potentially franchise-altering. Thompson's defensive capabilities have noticeably declined. His lateral quickness isn't what it once was, and opposing guards have increasingly targeted him in pick-and-roll situations. The Warriors already struggle defensively at times. Adding another defensive liability could exacerbate those problems significantly. There's also the chemistry disruption factor. The current Warriors roster has developed its own rhythm and rotation patterns. Inserting Thompson back into that mix could create awkward adjustments, particularly for younger players like Podziemski, who might see their minutes reduced. Locker room dynamics matter, and bringing back a beloved former player who's no longer performing at his previous level could create uncomfortable situations that undermine team cohesion. Financially, the move would likely require Golden State to take on Thompson's remaining salary, potentially limiting their flexibility for other moves. The Warriors are already operating above the luxury tax threshold. Adding Thompson's contract would push them even deeper into tax territory with significant financial implications for ownership. And then there's the most painful possibility of all. What if Thompson returns and simply can't recapture any semblance of his former effectiveness? What if the decline we're seeing in Dallas isn't system-related or adjustment-related, but simply age-related deterioration that no change of scenery can reverse? The Warriors would be stuck with an expensive, underperforming veteran taking minutes and shots away from younger players who might actually represent the franchise's future. This potential reunion represents the eternal tension in professional sports between emotional attachment and cold-blooded roster construction. Thompson means something to Warriors fans that transcends statistics. He was there for the 73-win season, for the comeback from 3-1 down against Oklahoma City, for all 4 championships. He's part of the franchise's DNA, woven into the fabric of its greatest era. But championships aren't won with sentiment. They're won with players who can execute at the highest level when everything is on the line. The question the Warriors must answer is brutally simple. Can Klay Thompson still be that player? The evidence suggests uncertainty. His Dallas performance has been too inconsistent to inspire confidence, yet his career track record and championship pedigree are too impressive to dismiss entirely. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. Thompson isn't the player he once was, but in the right role, in the right system, alongside the right teammates, he could still contribute meaningfully to a championship pursuit. If the Warriors do pull the trigger on this reunion, it should be with clear eyes and realistic expectations. Thompson wouldn't be returning as a savior or a primary option. He'd be returning as a veteran role player with championship experience, a three-point shooting specialist who understands the system, and a locker room presence who knows what it takes to win at the highest level. That might not sound as romantic as the return of the Splash Brothers, but it might be exactly what Golden State needs. As the trade deadline approaches and the Warriors evaluate their championship odds, every decision carries enormous weight. Stephen Curry's window won't stay open forever. The Western Conference remains brutally competitive with teams like Denver, Phoenix, and Oklahoma City, all possessing legitimate title aspirations. Golden State needs to maximize every advantage, exploit every opportunity, and make every move count. Could Klay Thompson be that move? Could the prodigal son's return provide the missing ingredient that transforms the Warriors from playoff contender to championship favorite? Or would it be a nostalgic mistake, a sentimental decision that prioritizes past glory over present reality? The answer might not be clear until we see Thompson in a Warriors uniform again, if that day ever comes. But one thing is certain. If this reunion happens, it will be one of the most fascinating storylines of the NBA season. a test of whether championship chemistry can be rekindled, whether familiarity can overcome declining skills, and whether sometimes, just sometimes, going home really is the answer. The Warriors built a dynasty by being smarter than everyone else, by making calculated decisions that others couldn't or wouldn't make. The question now is whether bringing Klay Thompson home represents that same kind of brilliant, counterintuitive thinking, or whether it's simply a franchise unable to let go of its glorious past. Should the Warriors bring Klay Thompson back home, or would it be a mistake to reunite with a player whose best days are clearly behind him? Is this the move that gives Curry one more championship, or the sentimental blunder that wastes his final elite years? Drop your analysis in the comments and smash that like button. This decision could define the Warriors' legacy for the next decade.